Hello and welcome to the Not Alone Project. My name is Suzanne Seitsinger and I'm with Children's, Youth and Families Juvenile Justice Division. So we just wrapped up Suicide Prevention Month in September, and a gentleman recently told me it seems like nobody wants to talk about this subject enough. So that statement inspired this group of amazing individuals to be created. So to that gentleman, thank you. I do want to introduce these amazing individuals that I get to work with day in and day out. So we have Sue Hodgman. She is the Director of Behavioral Health Services for San Juan County. She is going to be going over warning signs of suicide. Rick Quevedo, our CEO of Desert View Family Counseling, and he will be reviewing risk factors. Kim Dutremaine, CEO of Cottonwood Clinical Services, who will be reviewing statistics. And Greg Allen, Executive Director of San Juan Safe Communities Initiative. So according to the CDC, suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States and is a national public health concern that affects all Americans. One suicide is heartbreaking, notably affecting an estimated 135 surviving individuals for each death by suicide. So this group will be airing several series focusing on death by suicide over different demographics. We will be providing information on risk factors, signs, resources, statistics, and most importantly, real-life stories from some brave individuals. These episodes will be posted on the San Juan County, New Mexico Mental Health Task Force Facebook page, along with attachments of the information that we cover.
Suicide warning signs. Something to look out for when concerned that a person may be suicidal is a change in behavior or the presence of entirely new behaviors. This is of sharpest concern if the new or changed behavior is related to a painful event, loss, or change. Most people who take their lives exhibit one or more warning signs, either through what they say or what they do. If a person talks about killing themselves, feeling hopeless, having no reason to live, being a burden to others, feeling trapped, or unbearable pain. Behaviors that may signal risk, especially if related to a painful event, loss, or change, are increased use of alcohol or drugs, looking for a way to end their lives, such as searching online for methods, withdrawing from activities, isolating from family and friends, sleeping too much or too little, visiting or calling people to say goodbye, giving away prized possessions, aggression, or fatigue. And people who are considering suicide often display one or more of the following moods: depression, anxiety, loss of interest, irritability, humiliation or shame, agitation or anger, and relief of or sudden improvement in their behaviors.
Risk factors for suicide. Risk factors are those characteristics associated with suicide but may not be the direct cause. Risk factors include family history of suicide, family history of child maltreatment, previous suicide attempts, history of mental disorders, particularly clinical depression, history of alcohol and substance abuse, feelings of hopelessness, impulse or aggressive tendencies, cultural or religious beliefs, example, believe that suicide is a noble resolution to a personal dilemma. Local epidemics of suicide, isolation, feeling being cut off by other people, barriers to accessing mental health treatment, loss, relational, social work, or financial, physical illness, easy access to lethal methods, unwillingness to seek help because of the stigma attached to mental health, and substance abuse disorders. I'm going to go over a couple of protective factors as well, and protective factors basically just buffer the individual from having the thoughts about suicide. That would include having effective clinical care for mental, physical, or substance abuse disorders, easy access to a variety of clinical interventions, family and community support, feeling that connectiveness, support from ongoing medical and mental health care relationships, skills in problem solving, conflict resolution, and nonviolent ways of handling disputes, cultural and religious beliefs that discourage suicide and support the instincts of self-preservation.
I'm going to share national and local statistics, and these are quite alarming. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for persons aged 10 to 34 in the United States. More than 3,000 children and young adults aged 10 to 24 take their lives each year. Among children aged 10 to 14, death by suicide is now more common than death from traffic accidents. There are also more than 2.5 times as many suicides than there are homicides in our country. Males are 3 times more likely to complete suicide than females, and youth aged 15 to 24 make up 20% of all completions. New Mexico has been ranked number 1 for suicide deaths in the nation since 2018. In 2017, there were 41 deaths among 15 to 19-year-olds. And every 16 hours, someone loses their life to suicide in New Mexico. In 2019, the Farmington Police Department reported 4 completed suicides in a 12-month period. For the 9 months of 2020, this number has increased 400% to 16 currently. Farmington Police Department reports 3 of those being youth under the age of 18. The number of threats and attempts, however, has decreased by 64%. This is an alarming change reflecting the intensity of suicidality within the city limits. San Juan County Sheriff's Office reported 10 completed suicides in 2019, one of those being an adolescent youth. In the 9 months of 2020, the completed suicides reported are 6 adults and 1 youth, which make it on track to meet the 2019 statistics. The county has also seen a reduction in threats and attempts, being down 71%. These statistics are alarming and unfortunately continue to rise. Our youth are most at risk. In the 30 days before June, a CDC survey showed 25.5% of youth between ages 18 and 24 have contemplated suicide. That's 1/4 of all of our youth. With New Mexico being ranked number 1 in suicide deaths, we must take action. Earlier this month, I had the opportunity to interview Stacy Armistead of DJ's Way. Here she is. Hi, my name is Kim Dutremaine. I am CEO of Cottonwood Clinical Services, and today I have Stacy Armistead. She is president of DJ's Way, and we're gonna have a discussion about a topic that's heavy on everyone's minds in the last couple of months, and that's suicide awareness. So, Stacy, I know that you are both a suicide survivor and a parent of a child who's completed suicide.
Yes.
And we're really glad that you're here today to open this discussion.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, can you give us a little insight into your daughter DJ and?
Yeah, DJ, she was 25 when she passed. Up until that point, she was happy, outgoing. If you were to meet her, you would think all those things. Mm-hmm. She was everywhere, she knew everybody. She had tons of friends, tons of family. But there was another side to DJ that if you weren't really close to her, you didn't know. And that was that she was a manic depressive bipolar. And she would either be really, really up or really, really down. Did I realize that it was at that point that she was gonna think about that? A little, but not really. I thought there was no way, no way somebody, I just couldn't fathom it. What increased her depression and her lows was drinking. And the little group she ran around with, they liked to party. And she was the lead of that party. And
the life of the
party.
The
life of the party, she was. And, and then when she had to sober up, it was 3 or 4 days of crying and, just the typical things that I found out after her death. Looking back, I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense to me now. On December 16th, let me go back a little bit. On December 15th, DJ stopped by my house early in the morning. She worked for us down at our car lot. And she knocked on the door and she said, Mom, open the door, I need snacks. So I let her in and I was kind of fighting a migraine. I was like, what do you need snacks for? You just got paid. Well, I need snacks. I'm like, well, I didn't go to the grocery store. So she looks around for about 10 minutes and she comes over and she's like, you don't have any snacks? No. So she goes in the garage. We have a beer fridge in the garage. And she comes out with 2 Angry Orchards. And I'm like, that's not breakfast. And she's like, it is apples. She was just a funny kid. And she left and I didn't talk to her the rest of the day. I slept most of the day. Sunday morning, my older daughter, Jasmine, called me about 9:30 and she said, can you come sit with Lincoln? She's sick. I need to go to the store. Sure. She goes, oh, wait, by the way, did you talk to my sister last night? I said, I didn't talk to her since this morning. And she said, well, they got really drunk and she said she was going to the lot and she was going to sleep it off, which she did regularly. I'm like, no. She goes, well, after you watch Lincoln, will you go check? I was like, yeah, I'll go check. Went and watched the grandbaby, came back to town. Didn't think about it because in the back of my head, they were just partying. I went to the dollar store. I was buying stocking stuffers. Jasmine called again and she said, Mom, did you check on my sister? She won't answer her phone. I'm like, shit, sorry, I forgot. I'll go right now. So I just pushed my basket aside, went down to the car lot, and it's right there on Main Street on the corner of Browning and Main. Everybody can see it. So I'm coming onto Main Street and I look at them like, why did she not deflate the balloons? We had those big Grinch balloons and I'm like, what? So I pull up and I go to her car, is the first thing I see, and her car's unlocked. And I'm like, all right. So then I go to the front door. It's a glass front door. You can see completely in. And I see her and she's like this. And I was like, you drunken fool. So I start banging on the door. She don't move. I'm like, wow. So I go around to the back window where I'm still just seeing her passed out. Knock on the window, nothing. So finally on the third time, I go to the front window and I really stop and I look. And I seen the gun and I seen all of the blood and I seen her and I knew immediately. Called 911, called my daughter. I was screaming at her. She's like, Mom, I have the grandbabies. They can hear you. I'm on my way. Called my husband. He was on a rig in Texas. He was a rig manager. He hung up on me the first time. He's like, I'm in the doghouse. I'll have to call you back. Called him right back. And I said, no, you need to hear me. DJ's dead. And then everything just went crashing down. 911, I hung up on them because they were wanting what's the address, this. I'm like, I don't have time for this. With all that said, I don't know what stopped me from breaking that window.
To get inside.
It was an easy throw a rock through it. I mean, it was simple. It just never crossed my mind. Now I'm like, oh, I'm glad I didn't, because the first thing I would have done was grab her. And, we're almost 2 years out now, and it's still, the wounds are still fresh, the event is still fresh.
Yeah.
I did get her toxicology report back finally, and she was at a 2.876, and that was 16 hours after she had died.
Wow.
Do I think if the sober her would have been in that position, would she have done it? I like to think no, but in my mind, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know.
Right.
And so we've been dealing with that for 2 years.
So a lot of second guessing.
A lot of
for your
second
family.
guessing.
Right.
A lot of second and third guessing on my part. What kind of parent was I? Did I do enough? Did I not do enough? Did I not let her cope with situations she should have coped with and learned how to be an adult? And, did I guard her too much? Did I not guard her enough? You question every aspect of the entire situation.
So as a parent, what did you know about treatment or counseling or any of those things? Because a lot of times we don't know, right? Like you said, I'm raising my child and I'm trying to give life skills. So were you aware?
None.
Okay.
None. And the strange thing about that comment is DJ had a couple of friends before her. My best friend's son committed suicide in 2016. In 2014, I'm sorry. And all these things are going on. I never realized there was stuff out there. I didn't know who to call. It was kind of like, you deal with it. I knew she was a manic depressive. I tried to get her to go to the doctor for it. In her mind, she's like, I ain't gonna be a zombie.
Yeah.
I understand that statement now, which
Sure.
we'll get to later, but all she wanted to do is smoke her weed and be left alone. I didn't know to call somebody, and it, not in my defense, but I thought if I call, they're gonna put her in the hospital, and then she's gonna be really mad.
So that's a fearful kind of thing
Yes,
too, like
yeah.
hospital, when people think about acute care for psychiatric needs, it's a really scary
It is.
feeling.
It is such a scary feeling, and she would never, she would have fought me tooth and nail. And there's a cloud of what people perceive as what happens when you do go to that situation.
Yeah.
And one of the main reasons that we wanted to start DJ's Way is going through the motions and learning. There's really not a lot, even though these agencies are out here, there's not a lot of outgoing publicity for it.
Right.
Meaning it's just not there.
We're not talking about it enough.
We're not talking about it enough. We're not seeing the signs enough.
Right.
You know, as a child growing up, if I was taught, you learn to cope, you deal with your life, and you are an adult. And I think that the generation now just doesn't know. They medicate, they don't cope with it. They don't know how to cope with it. And I know that's what my daughter was going through.
Sure.
She just thought she was crazy.
So do you want to talk a little bit about your experience with the mental health system? And I think that would be a good
Okay.
thing.
In July, it was a year and 7 months after DJ died. I run a lot. I was down at Burke Park. The whole year and 7 months, I've had a hard time looking at pictures of her. Her friends send me videos. I don't open them. I just kind of try to scroll past the stuff on Facebook. I just kind of pushed it aside. I did seek help right after DJ died. Was medicated. Every time I went in, if I wasn't sleeping, up the dosages. If I wasn't dealing, well, let's add this medicine. So there's a majority of a year and 7 months that I don't really remember. People will say, oh, don't you remember? No, I don't. So my family was on edge anyways about me.
Not to cut you off, but a lot of times that is a trauma response
Yeah,
to
just
not
stay
remember.
numb. You don't want to deal with it. So this night, or it was in the afternoon. I went down to Burke Park, where I run. Was going to pull up my playlist on YouTube. Well, DJ's funeral, the video that you play at funerals, is on YouTube, and you can access it at any time. Whatever happened, it pulled up. I hadn't watched it in a year and 7 months, so I was like, okay. So I watched it again, and I watched it again, and every time I replayed it, I took a couple of Xanax. Got to a point that I don't remember. I remember I didn't think about my family. I didn't think about me. I thought about one person. And I couldn't get over the fact, why? Why did God take my child?
Right.
I did have a gun. I fired twice. Whatever was on my side that night, it misfired twice and then jammed. The only reason I know that is because my husband immediately got it and looked at it, and he's like, wow, I have never seen a gun do this.
So your intention was to,
Oh yeah,
to kill yourself?
I was done. My husband had me leave, which I have a 12-year-old daughter who didn't need to see any of that. So I was going to go to my older daughter's, Jasmine's house, and she told me, Mom, you need to go get help. She drove me to the ER. Don't remember getting in the ER. Don't remember anything. I remember waking up there and talking to the counselors and whatnot. She said, do you remember the first time we met? And I said, no. She said, I asked you what you were doing here, or what brought you here, and you did this. That's not anything I ever do. So I was like, oh. So 7 days I spent in the hospital, detoxed, stopped taking
From
all
the
the
Xanax.
I was on Zoloft, Xanax, and there was 2 other ones.
Okay.
They did help me through the detoxing, part of it, and then got me to start talking about why I was in that position in the first place. While I was angry at my daughter, which I still get angry at her now.
Sure.
You should be here. We should not be doing all this. We should be planning Halloween and, you know, Thanksgiving. And I really had to sit down with myself and say, okay, this is not you. This is not something you've ever thought of. But I was so intoxicated with prescribed medication that it was so much on my mind that I thought that's what I was going to do.
Correct.
And
So it's kind of easy to see how someone can get in that
Easy.
position quickly.
it is easy to go from 0 to 10 in a matter of hours.
Yes.
And I think people deal with all kinds of tragedies and all kinds of things, especially here in our town. The homelessness, the drug addiction, the just the stigma of it is insane. And sobering up brought me to say, okay, we're going to push this a little bit harder. I need to know why and what and where and how we can help so that another parent doesn't have to do that. And, you know, there's been a few more since my daughter died.
Yeah.
And it's just like we can't get a grasp on it. And I think there's so much we can do that people don't end up in that position.
Tell me a little bit more, I think I cut you off,
That's okay.
about being at the acute care and the treatment that you received. Did you have some realizations while you were there?
I did. I watched, not talking derogatory about anybody, but I watched how I was being treated. Mm-hmm. Of course, we have really good insurance, and you know, it was a different, I had my own private room. They checked on me, they helped me with the pain, they helped me with the headaches. I watched a couple of younger kids come in. Completely, they were detoxing, but also threatening suicide. Mm-hmm. These kids did not have insurance. They had no means to pay for this. They were there a night and then put right back on the street. I'm sorry, but I probably was better at coping with being back out of there than they were.
Right.
And I just was dumbfounded that, wait a minute.
Especially when intoxication can
Yeah.
push the thought of
Suicide.
of completing suicide
Yeah.
over the edge. Yeah.
Extremely. I mean, it did with my daughter. It did every suicide up to my daughter. There was a form of intoxication at the time.
Right.
They were either drinking or whatever.
Right.
And you know, there's just got to be something that we're missing.
So what you're seeing is the two oftentimes are going hand in hand. Intoxication
Yes.
coupled with some crises in a person's
Yeah.
life can, you know, have someone make a decision that they normally wouldn't make.
No,
You know.
they're making a permanent, you know, solution to a temporary problem that could have been handled, you know. And I know there's a lot of kids suffering from homelessness,
Yeah.
from hunger. You know, we've been at the high school and did a weeks-long presentation, and you know, the kids were coming up to us. They're like, "I'm living in the car
Yeah.
at the Smith's parking lot with my grandma and my two cousins, and they haven't showered in days."
Yes.
And high school and junior high, I'm sorry, those are the hardest parts of a child's life.
Yeah.
The bullying, and it's bullying that you don't think about that drives them to that. Well, now I'm going to cut myself because I need some relief, or now I'm going to go smoke pot with these kids out here because I don't want to deal with the pain being inflicted.
I need some relief.
I need some relief, and I agree, I do, and we turn them away, you know.
So tell me about DJ's Way. I know that your family and some
Yes.
other close people to you have started a nonprofit organization, and tell us about that.
So we started DJ's Way, of course, in light of her. I think all of us were not ready to let go of her, so we had to have something to grasp onto, which 90% of the time has been a positive, you know, except for my one little relapse. It has been positive. The community has been positive. Yeah, we live in a community that's suffering, but we also live in a community where they really will give and help, and they want to help. A lot of the unity,
Yeah.
the motorcycle clubs. All you have to do is ask. and they're there, and they will raise money that, like, they should be somebody's campaign manager because those guys can raise some money.
Yep.
And in DJ's Way, we wanted to not just say, okay, we just want to talk about how we're going to treat them if they're suicidal. We wanted to take a step back and be what's leading them to that. So if we want to be up and running to where the point that if this kid comes to us, I don't have clean clothes, I haven't eaten in 4 days, I don't know what I'm going to do, come on in here. We can help you with that. Let's get you some clothes. Let's get you a ride. If they're in trouble with the courts, we want to get in with the courts to help them not feel so helpless in their defense. You know, maybe it's not to get them off of the problem, but help them maybe pay some fines or do some community service. Come in and do community service with DJ's Way. Come help us.
An additional support.
An additional support. Like, you come in here and help us, and we're going to show you what it feels like to help other people. You know, DJ's big thing was kids. Big thing on kids. So she was doing it for the couple of years before she passed away, and we've kind of taken over it. And it's DJ's annual toy run. We raised, last year, I think we raised like $6,000 in toys, clothes, food vouchers. You don't have to prove anything to us, no income, no nothing. Bring your kids, we have the table set up, you pick a toy for each child that you have, and some clothes or jackets, or if you need to eat. It keeps getting bigger. That was good. But in the end, we want to have a facility that, one, you can call at any time. Child, adolescent, juvenile, adult. You say, I need help. Okay, you need to come get you, we'll come get you, we'll bring you here, we'll do whatever, we'll get a hold of Cottonwood Services, we'll say, hey, this is a little more, they need to be in somewhere, they need help, and try and get more people help, so there's not just an absolute feeling of, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know who to call. Until you actually try to commit suicide, there ain't nothing there. And I hate to say that, but there's not.
Right.
I was dealing with a child that committed suicide, and I put myself in that position, and there was nowhere.
What do you think would have been the thing, because there, you know, we have crisis numbers and we have all of this stuff, and that, like you said, there's resources out there, but they're kind of not what we need.
Right.
What do you think would have caught your attention between when DJ died and the time that you yourself had contemplated suicide? What would have been the thing that said, hey, we're here, we're over here? Do you know?
For one, I don't think we need to medicate people so bad. For another's, I wish there would have been a number I can say, oh, I'm going to call that person. Not a hotline, not the sheriffs.
A personal.
A person.
Okay.
Because in fear, for the reason being, you're going to call authorities or you're going to call this 1-800 number, people think, oh my God, so that's going to set off the cops. The cops are going to come get me.
It's an organization.
It's an organization. I'm going to get thrown in jail in the next 20 minutes, and that's not what I need.
Right.
Or the hospital's going to lock me in there, which I needed that, but it wasn't that way. When I first went in there, I was like, probably no, I don't want to be here.
Sure.
But I needed to be there. I think if they had numbers, and that's why we give our numbers out.
A personal touch.
A personal touch to the fact where this person can say, hey, I'm sitting here with a gun right now. Mm-hmm. Hold that thought for 15 minutes. Let me get to you. Let me bring my friend Kim to talk to you. No, you don't have to make any decisions. There's no authorities being called.
Right.
Let's just talk. Let's just see if we can get help. Maybe some of those things you're dealing with that are pushing you aren't as bad as you think. Maybe we can help. You know, I want to work with people that if I have a kid that's just down and out, needs a job, okay, well, you know, let me work with the schools or let me work with somebody, this kid or the county, you know, parks and facilities, 18-year-old, can we get him a job? Temporary, I know they hire all the time. Just things like that. It's an overall, DJ's way is the way DJ lived. If DJ had $5 and you needed 10, she would go hustle another 5 and give you that $10.
Got it.
And so she would give you the clothes off her back. And she didn't have, she didn't have a pot to deal in it. She was just living day by day, but she would dang sure help you. And so that's why we named it DJ's Way, and hopefully we can make a difference at some point.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So Stacy, thanks for coming today and,
Thank you.
having this discussion. I know
Yes.
that it's difficult sometimes. And if you have a family member, a child, a friend, anyone, yourself, that you feel like you've got yourself in that place or you're contemplating suicide, please call one of the numbers on the bottom of the screen. Get a hold of someone, talk to someone, and there's another way.
If you or someone you know is in need of help, the phone numbers to the New Mexico Crisis Hotline and the Suicide Prevention Hotline will be displayed during this series. In November, we will be opening up the Mental Wellness Resource Center of San Juan County across from San Juan Regional Medical Center. The opening will occur on November 12th at 4 p.m. At this time, we do plan on doing a dove release in remembrance of those that we have lost. So again, thank you for tuning in, and I will leave you with this. Your story is still being written. There is so much more in store for you. You are not finished yet. Keep going.